We're diving into something pretty intense.
Yeah.
It's a message, actually, from a Black American,
Okay.
and it's about political representation, or, well, really the lack of it.
Yeah.
And you could just, like, feel the disillusionment,
Yeah, definitely.
This feeling of betrayal. It's heavy stuff.
Absolutely. It comes through loud and clear.
So, like, the main thing the author's saying is that Kamala Harris has lost the confidence of the Black community, basically.
Right.
So I'm curious, what are the specific criticisms,
Well, I think one of the biggest things the author points to is this idea that
Okay.
that Harris surrounds herself with advisors who are kind of out of touch with like the realities of Black communities.
Out of touch, yeah.
Like they're speaking for the community,
Right.
not with it, and that's a big problem for the author.
It's like not really authentic representation.
Exactly.
Which the author touches on in that part about women voting against Harris, even though she's, pro-choice on Roe v. Wade and all that.
Right.
And the author sees that as a, like, total betrayal.
Yeah, I can see that.
So how does that tie into this, like, bigger feeling of disillusionment, you think?
Well, it's like it kind of feeds into this broader idea that the Democratic Party as a whole isn't really listening to the needs of the Black community.
Right.
The author feels like Democrats are all talk and no action.
Okay.
Lots of lip service, as they put it.
It's service.
But without any meaningful action to back it up.
Yeah, like they're just saying what people want to hear.
Exactly.
But then nothing really changes.
And that kind of inconsistency over time really erodes trust.
Right.
And that's where I think this deep sense of disappointment comes from.
It's like when you, someone says all the right things, but then their actions don't match up at all.
Totally.
And you just, like, start to question everything.
Yeah, you wonder if they ever really cared in the first place.
Like, are they really listening, or are they just seeing you as, like, a guaranteed vote?
Right, exactly.
Which kind of leads into the whole argument about Black voters being taken for granted, which the author definitely feels strongly about.
Yeah, for sure.
So how convincing do you find that argument?
I mean, it's definitely, it resonates with the author's experience, for sure.
Right.
There's this sense that promises are made during elections, but then when it comes to actual change, things don't really improve.
It's all talk.
Yeah, and I think
Right.
the author's not necessarily citing, like, hard data or anything, but it's more of an appeal to a shared history. This feeling within the Black community of being overlooked and not really valued.
So the author then goes on to call for some pretty big changes.
Yeah.
Like, stop being a reliable voting bloc, demand actual results, not just promises.
Right, it's a big ask.
What do you think about that?
I think it's a really significant moment, actually, because the author is essentially, like, urging Black Americans to rethink their approach to politics,
Like, completely shift their strategy.
Yeah, to leverage their voting power, to force real change to happen.
Not just settle.
Yeah, to stop settling for the status quo.
And then there's that final line, another slap in the face.
Powerful stuff.
It's intense,
Yeah, for sure.
To me, it suggests that, like, the frustration's so deep
that
it could lead to people just, like, disengaging from politics altogether.
Yeah, I can see that.
Or even fueling more radical movements,
It definitely speaks to, like, a deep well of hurt and disappointment.
Yeah.
I mean, there are echoes here of earlier movements within the Black community. Think about, like, the Black Power movement back in the 60s and 70s. There was that same frustration with how slowly things were changing. This feeling that, like, the traditional ways of doing politics just weren't working.
It's that feeling of not being heard.
Yeah, exactly.
Your voice doesn't matter.
And your needs aren't being met.
Right.
And that can be a really powerful motivator for change.
Yes, absolutely.
But, change can take a lot of different forms,
right.
So it's hard to say for sure.
So do you think this disillusionment could lead to, like, different ways of engaging in politics?
Oh, for sure.
Within the Black community? I mean...
Yeah, I think we could see a shift, away from the traditional parties and towards, like, more grassroots organizing,
Right.
independent movements, even a focus on local politics,
Okay.
where people feel like they can actually have a direct impact.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You know?
So we've talked about some pretty heavy things today,
Right.
like broken trust, the need for real representation,
Yeah.
and this call for action.
Defense.
It's a lot to think about.
It is.
So I'm curious, after this deep dive,
Yeah.
how do you think Black political engagement might change?
Wow, that's a big question.
It is.
And I think there are so many possibilities,
Yeah.
But I guess for me, what resonates most is this idea of finding ways to make your voice heard,
Okay.
whether that's through traditional politics or something else entirely.
Right.
It's about making sure that your needs are being addressed
Absolutely.
and not just, being taken for granted.
I think that's something we can all agree on.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks for diving into this with me.
Of course. It's been a really thought-provoking conversation.
So for everyone listening, this deep dive has brought up a lot about representation and political action.
For sure.
And what it means to have your voice heard. Yeah. So I want you to think about what actions resonate most with your values.
Okay.
And how you can make a difference in the issues you care about.
That's a good takeaway.
Because, at the end of the day,
yeah,
it's up to each of us.
Absolutely.
To create the kind of change we want to see in the world.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
All right. Well, that's it for this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll catch you next time.
See you.